Samuel Bronfman's story is one of ambition. He rose from obscurity to immense wealth. He became a titan of the liquor industry. His journey, however, began far from glittering boardrooms. It started in the modest, often harsh lands of Bessarabia. This region, historically contested, was then part of Imperial Russia. The Bronfman family, like many Jewish families there, faced significant challenges. Anti-Semitism was rampant. Economic opportunities were severely restricted. This environment bred a strong desire for change. They envisioned a life free from such persecution. The promise of a new world beckoned. Canada, vast and developing, offered hope. In the late 1880s, Yechiel and Mindel Bronfman, Samuel's parents, made a momentous decision. They chose to emigrate. With their young children, including Samuel, they embarked on a difficult journey. They left behind their ancestral home and familiar surroundings. They faced the uncertainties of a long voyage. They headed towards a future they could only imagine. Their arrival in Canada marked the beginning of a new chapter. It was one defined by hardship, but also by determination. Upon reaching Canada, the Bronfmans did not find immediate prosperity. They initially settled in Saskatchewan. The Canadian prairies were a demanding environment. The climate was harsh, with long, cold winters. The work was physically taxing. The family had to adapt quickly to a new language. They also had to learn new customs. Their early years were characterized by struggle. They worked hard to establish themselves in this unfamiliar land. These formative experiences undoubtedly shaped young Samuel. He witnessed firsthand the importance of resilience and resourcefulness. The family's initial ventures were modest. They needed to survive. They engaged in various small businesses. These included trading goods and farming. Samuel Bronfman learned early about commerce. He observed the dynamics of buying and selling. He understood the value of hard work. These early lessons in the tough Canadian landscape were crucial. They laid the groundwork for his later, more significant enterprises. The challenges they overcame instilled a drive. This drive would later fuel an empire built on whiskey. The Bronfman family, like many immigrant families, initially faced economic uncertainty. They were new to Canada. They had limited capital. Their first attempts at earning a livelihood were diverse. They tried farming, a common pursuit on the prairies. However, the unforgiving Saskatchewan soil proved challenging. They also engaged in firewood trading. This was essential in the cold Canadian climate. These early experiences taught them about local markets. They learned about the needs of the community. Samuel, even at a young age, showed a keen interest in these activities. He was an observant and quick learner. Their foray into the hospitality sector began relatively small. The family recognized an opportunity in providing services to travelers. They started with a small hotel in Yorkton, Saskatchewan. This venture brought them into direct contact with the public. It also exposed them to the intricacies of running a service-oriented business. Managing a hotel involved many tasks. These included lodging, food, and often drink. This was Samuel's first real exposure to the liquor trade. He saw how alcohol sales could be a profitable part of hospitality. This observation would prove to be pivotal. The hotel business expanded. The Bronfmans acquired more properties. They built a reputation for providing decent accommodations. Samuel played an increasingly important role. He displayed a natural aptitude for business. He was not afraid of hard work. He understood the importance of customer satisfaction. He also began to see the potential in liquor distribution. At that time, liquor laws were relatively lax in some parts of Canada. This allowed for legitimate sales through their hotels. The profits from these sales were noticeable. They boosted the family's finances significantly. These early years were not without their difficulties. Competition was stiff. Economic downturns could impact their businesses. However, the Bronfmans persevered. They reinvested their profits. They carefully managed their expenses. Samuel, in particular, was known for his financial acumen. He learned to navigate the complexities of business finance. He also started to build a network of contact. These connections in the prairie towns would become valuable. Their hospitality ventures provided a stable foundation. They also offered a glimpse into a far more lucrative industry. The early 20th century brought significant changes. The temperance movement was gaining momentum across North America. Its advocates called for the prohibition of alcohol. They believed it was the root of many social ills. One by one, Canadian provinces began to enact their own prohibition laws. Saskatchewan, where the Bronfmans had established their hotel businesses, went dry in 1915. This presented a major challenge to their existing operations. A significant source of their hotel revenue disappeared overnight. The sale of liquor was now illegal in their home province. For many in the hospitality industry, provincial prohibition was a disaster. It threatened their livelihoods. However, Samuel Bronfman saw things differently. He possessed an astute business mind. He was quick to analyze changing circumstances. He realized that while provinces could ban sales within their borders, federal law was different. The Canada Temperance Act did not prohibit the interprovincial shipment of liquor. It also did not stop companies from producing alcohol for export. This legal grey area sparked an idea. It was an opportunity born from restriction itself. Samuel Bronfman understood that demand for alcohol would not simply vanish. Prohibition often drove consumption underground. It created a market for those willing to supply it. He recognized that if he could legally produce or acquire liquor, he could ship it. He could send it to provinces where it was still legal. More importantly, he could ship it to individuals in dry provinces. This was possible through mail-order loopholes. The key was to operate from a wet jurisdiction or to exploit the federal laws governing export and interprovincial trade. This realization marked a turning point for the Bronfman family. They began to shift their focus. Their legitimate hotel liquor sales had ended. Now, a new, potentially far larger market beckoned. It was a market created by the very laws designed to stop drinking. The risks were higher, the legal landscape was complex and constantly shifting, but the potential rewards were immense. Samuel Bronfman was prepared to navigate these murky waters. The era of prohibition was dawning. For the Bronfmans, it heralded the true beginning of their liquor empire. With provincial prohibition taking hold, Samuel Bronfman focused on the mail-order liquor business. This was a clever exploitation of existing Canadian law. The federal government at the time did not prohibit the manufacture of alcohol, nor did it ban its shipment between provinces. If a company was based in a province where liquor production or warehousing was legal, like Quebec for a period, it could ship alcohol. It could be sent to individuals in dry provinces for personal use. This was the loophole that Bronfman aimed to master. It required careful planning and execution. The family established mail-order liquor houses. One of their early significant ventures was the Bonaventure Liquor Company. This was strategically located in Montreal, Quebec. Quebec remained wet longer than many other provinces. From here, they could legally ship spirits across provincial lines. They advertised their products in newspapers. Customers in dry provinces could order whiskey by mail. The company would then ship it directly to them. This business model bypassed provincial sales bans. It was technically legal under federal jurisdiction. It proved to be incredibly popular. The logistics of this operation were complex. It involved sourcing or producing large quantities of alcohol. It required efficient warehousing and distribution systems. The Bronfmans had to manage a large volume of orders. They needed to ensure timely delivery. They also had to deal with various provincial authorities. Some authorities tried to intercept these shipments. They sought to close any perceived sub-loopholes. Samuel Bronfman became adept at understanding the letter of the law. He employed legal counsel to ensure their operations remained compliant, at least compliant with federal statutes. This mail-order business was highly profitable. It allowed the Bronfmans to accumulate significant capital. It also gave them valuable experience in the liquor trade on a large scale. They learned about branding and customer preferences. They refined their distribution networks. While some viewed these activities as morally questionable, they were, for a time, legally permissible. The mail-order system was a crucial stepping stone. It transformed the Bronfmans from hotel keepers into major players in the Canadian liquor scene. It prepared them for even greater opportunities that lay ahead. Section 5. The American Connection, Quenching a Nation's Thirst. The landscape of opportunity shifted dramatically in 1920. The United States enacted nationwide prohibition with the Volstead Act. This created an enormous, unquenchable thirst south of the Canadian border. Suddenly, Canada, with its long, porous border and existing liquor production, became a primary source. For entrepreneurs like Samuel Bronfman, this was an irresistible prospect. The profits to be made from supplying the American market dwarfed anything seen before. It was a high-stakes game. It was also fraught with danger and illegality from the American perspective. The Bronfmans were well positioned to capitalize on this. They had already established supply chains and production capabilities. They understood the liquor business. Their Canadian operations could legally produce and export liquor. The key was getting it across the border to American bootleggers and distributors. This often involved intricate smuggling networks. Small boats, fast cars, and secret routes were used. These activities were illegal under US law. They also often violated Canadian export regulations if not declared properly. This period is often referred to as rum running. Samuel Bronfman officially maintained that his companies only sold liquor legally in Canada. They sold to legitimate export houses, or they sold to individuals who then took it upon themselves to smuggle it. He always aimed to keep his direct involvement an arm's length away from illegal activities. However, the sheer volume of liquor flowing south was undeniable. The Bronfman brands became well known in American speakeasies. The profits generated during this era were astronomical. This wealth fueled further expansion of their Canadian distilleries and operations. It laid the financial foundation for a future legitimate empire. This period was not without its perils. There were risks of seizure by authorities on both sides of the border. There were encounters with rival gangs and hijackers. The American government put increasing pressure on Canada. They wanted Canada to crack down on the cross-border flow. Despite these challenges, the trade continued. The demand was too strong, the profits were too enticing. The American Prohibition era transformed the Bronfman enterprise. It elevated them from a Canadian mail-order business to a significant international supplier, albeit one operating in the shadows of American law. Section 6 of Strategic Alliances, Building an Unshakable Foundation. Samuel Bronfman understood that business success was not solely about individual brilliance. It also depended on forming strong, strategic alliances. Throughout his career, he sought out partnerships. These partnerships could provide capital, legitimacy, or market access. One of the most significant early alliances was with the powerful Hudson's Bay Company. This historic trading company had a long-standing presence in Canada. It also possessed a royal charter and an air of respectability. This was something the Bronfmans, with their somewhat controversial reputation, desired. The partnership with the Hudson's Bay Company was mutually beneficial. For the Bronfmans, it offered a veneer of legitimacy. It also provided access to HBC's extensive distribution network. HBC, in turn, saw an opportunity to profit from the burgeoning liquor market. They had experience in importing and distributing goods. Together, they could navigate the complex regulatory environment. They could also combine their expertise in sourcing and selling spirits. This alliance helped to solidify the Bronfmans' position in the Canadian liquor industry. It lent credibility to their operations. Beyond the Hudson's Bay Company, Bronfman cultivated relationships with other key players. These included financiers who could provide capital for expansion. He also worked with distillers in Scotland. This allowed him to source high-quality Scotch whisky. These relationships were essential for improving the quality of his blends. He aimed to create products that could compete with established international brands. Building these connections required diplomacy and business acumen. Samuel Bronfman excelled at both. He knew how to negotiate favorable terms. He understood the importance of trust in business dealings. These alliances were not limited to Canada. As American Prohibition continued, connections with American distributors became crucial. While Bronfman maintained a distance from direct smuggling, his products needed to reach the US market. This required a network of intermediaries. These relationships were often clandestine. They were built on coded messages and mutual interest. The ability to form and maintain such alliances, both legitimate and less so, was a testament to Bronfman's strategic thinking. It enabled his business to grow and thrive even in the face of legal and ethical challenges. Section 7. Seagram's Ascendant, from bootlegging to boardrooms. As the era of Prohibition neared its end, Samuel Bronfman made a pivotal strategic shift. He recognized that the future lay in legitimate, branded liquor. The profits from supplying bootleggers were immense, but this business model was unsustainable in the long term. He began to invest heavily in acquiring and building distilleries. His vision was to create a company known for quality and consistency. In 1928, he acquired Joseph E. Seagram and Sons. This was a well-established Ontario distillery with a good reputation. This acquisition was a masterstroke. The Seagram name provided instant credibility. It was a brand associated with Canadian whiskey tradition. Bronfman shrewdly kept the Seagram name prominent. He understood the power of branding. He focused on improving production methods. He invested in aging his whiskies for longer periods. This was a departure from the often harsh, quickly made spirits of the Prohibition era. He aimed to create smoother, more palatable products. His flagship brand, Seagram's VO, became a symbol of this commitment to quality. It was carefully blended and marketed. With the repeal of Prohibition in the United States in 1933, Seagram's was perfectly positioned. Bronfman had anticipated this change. He had amassed vast stocks of aged whiskey. While many American distillers were struggling to restart production, Seagram's had mature inventory ready to ship. This foresight gave them a significant head start in the newly legal American market. The company expanded rapidly. They established bottling plants and distribution networks across the U.S. Samuel Bronfman himself became a respected, if sometimes feared, figure in the industry. The transformation from a mail-order house and supplier to bootleggers was complete. Seagram's grew into one of the largest spirits companies in the world. Samuel Bronfman, once a prairie hotelier, now helmed a multinational corporation. He insisted on high standards in every aspect of the business. From distillation to marketing, his attention to detail was legendary. The company diversified its portfolio. It acquired other brands and expanded into different types of spirits. The rise of Seagram's was a testament to Bronfman's ambition, strategic planning, and relentless pursuit of quality. Section 8. Shadows of illegality, controversy, and scrutiny. Despite the immense success of Seagram's, shadows from the past lingered. The Bronfman family's rapid accumulation of wealth during Prohibition raised questions. Accusations of illegal activities were persistent. While Samuel Bronfman always insisted his Canadian operations were legal, the ultimate destination of much of his liquor was the illicit American market. Authorities on both sides of the border conducted investigations. They looked into allegations of smuggling, tax evasion, and bribery. These investigations cast a pall over the family's reputation. One of the most significant challenges came from a royal commission in Canada. In the 1930s, the Commission on Customs and Excise investigated illegal liquor activities. The Bronfmans faced intense scrutiny. There were allegations that they had bribed customs officials. There were claims they had systematically defrauded the government of excise taxes. Samuel Bronfman and his brothers were called to testify. They fiercely defended their actions. They argued they had operated within the complex and often ambiguous laws of the time. Ultimately, no criminal charges were filed against Samuel himself from this inquiry. However, the controversies did not entirely disappear. The sheer scale of their operations during Prohibition made it difficult to believe they were entirely uninvolved in the less savory aspects of the trade. Whispers of connections to organized crime figures in the United States persisted. Samuel Bronfman worked tirelessly to cultivate an image of legitimacy. He sought respectability through philanthropy and business acumen. Yet the bootlegger label proved hard to shake completely. The source of their foundational fortune remained a subject of public fascination and debate. These accusations and investigations highlighted the ethical complexities of their rise. The Bronfmans had exploited legal loopholes masterfully. They had supplied a demand that society had tried to legislate away. Whether their actions were purely shrewd business or involved crossing legal and ethical lines remained a contentious point. The controversies underscored the often blurred distinctions between legality and morality, especially during an era as tumultuous as Prohibition. The price of their success included ongoing scrutiny and a persistently questioned past. Section 9. Conclusion. The Bronfman Legacy, a toast to an empire. Samuel Bronfman's success was built on several key factors. His sharp business instincts were undeniable. He possessed an uncanny ability to identify opportunities. He saw potential where others saw only obstacles. His resilience, forged in the hardships of early immigrant life, was crucial. He was not deterred by setbacks. His strategic foresight, particularly in anticipating the end of Prohibition, was remarkable. He also understood the power of branding and quality. This allowed him to transform Seagram's into a global giant. He built an empire from very humble beginnings. The lasting impact of the Bronfman family on the liquor industry is immense. Seagram's, under Samuel's leadership and later his sons, became synonymous with whiskey. They set industry standards for production, aging and marketing. Their brands like Seagram's, VO and Crown Royal became iconic. The family's influence extended beyond liquor. They diversified into other industries, including entertainment through their later control of Universal Studios. The wealth they accumulated was vast. It made the Bronfmans one of North America's most prominent and influential families. Today, in 2025, the Bronfman family name still carries significant weight. Though the original Seagram company was eventually dismantled, its legacy endures. Descendants of Samuel Bronfman continue to be involved in various business ventures. They're also known for their extensive philanthropic efforts. The family has supported numerous causes in arts, education, and Jewish community initiatives. This philanthropy has helped to shape their public image in more recent decades. It reflects a desire to contribute to society. It also perhaps seeks to balance the more controversial aspects of their early history. The story of the Bronfman whiskey empire remains a compelling narrative. It is a tale of immigrant ambition and entrepreneurial genius. It is also a story intertwined with a controversial period of history. The rise from Bessarabian émigrés to titans of industry is a powerful testament to their tenacity. The controversies surrounding their methods serve as a reminder of the complexities of wealth creation. The Bronfman legacy is multifaceted. It encompasses business innovation, vast fortune, and enduring questions. It is a story still debated and discussed today.